Welcome, everyone. We're about to kick off our first session of TFF with Scott Stroll. Scott is the lead visualization architect for Knowlegent, an enterprise consultancy that only does data and analytics. He's focused on enterprise business for the past 15 years. Scott has been a Tableau consultant for just 3 years and is working on desktop and server certifications. It would be an understatement to say that Scott just likes Tableau. Scott's going to talk to us a little bit today about walking a reference line. We all know that Tableau can seem to do some magical things. And as a Tableau consultant, Scott is asked to design powerful yet easy to use dashboards. And one of the sometimes overlooked gems is the reference line. So in this session, Scott's going to share his design tips for awesome reference lines that will spice up your visualization. So Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that intro. That was great. And good evening or good morning to everyone. It's evening where I am, but it's probably morning where you are. So have a good Friday. I'll have one tomorrow. And today I want to talk about reference lines. And the first thing I would like to say is, yes, I am first. And this is probably the first time in my life that I was up first playing baseball all my young kid years. I never got up first, so I'm glad that I'm up first this time. I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay, so that's what was going to be on the screen earlier. Am I sharing now? Not sure I am. It says I am.
You're good to go, Scott.
Great.
Oh, no, we don't see your screen. We see you.
Yeah. So I'm saying share desktop, share screen. Oh, I didn't hit the share screen button at the bottom. There we go. Okay. So like we said, we're talking about reference lines today. Reference lines, as a little refresher, are those nice little lines that you can put on your bar charts or line charts that basically provide another aggregation level to your visualizations. You can specify what type of calculation you'd like to have. So we have average and median, a minimum, and up here is a maximum. And then similar to reference lines are the trend lines. And you could do some pretty cool things with trend lines as well as you and put them on as like change the colors and really call out some information in your visualizations. So I'm pretty sure everybody remembers how to do that. We're just going to right click inside of a axis and add reference line. That's the easiest way to do it, and it's the way I've been using Tableau to build reference lines. The other way is when you're not in presentation mode, to use the analytics tab and just drag out a reference line. The benefit to doing that is you get to specify where you want that reference line to be added to, either at the table level, the pane level, if you have multiple dimensions in your columns, or at the cell level, which would be at every single measure. Okay, so to pull them out, we would right click, add a reference line. We'll do this at the entire table level and specify. I like to do this, put it on custom, and then specify the computation, and then I put a colon space, and then the value. And the reason why I generally do that is because then the line is already identified for me. Now, one thing when you do averages, sometimes you're going to get these giant percent signs. So those are easy to clean up. You're going to format, and in the number view, in the number setting, go to stand custom and just get rid of those decimal points, and then you get a nice whole number. Okay, so we'll add one more. Right click, add in a reference line. We're going to go to custom again. computation, colon space, and then add a value. That's very similar to tooltips, how you're putting in these. You can't type these in, you have to choose from the menu. And this time we're going to use the maximum, bring that up top. As soon as you change it, it'll put it up, it'll display it right away. Okay, so there's some basic reference lines. Okay, now one thing when I was playing around with this, I saw something kind of interesting with trend line. So you see here I have a trend line, and I marked it as trend line. And in this particular one, I changed the trend line to logarithmic, and all of a sudden all of my bars disappeared. But they really didn't, and I'm going to magically just bring them back. That was really cool, so I'm going to do it again. I will show everybody how to do that in the Viz when you get this, when you get the workbook. But while I was playing, I thought that was neat, and I said I'm going to leave that in there to show you guys how to build that. Okay, we're doing good timing. Okay, another reference line trick is to use parameters to draw your reference lines. So in this one, I have a reference line that is going to mark the ratio for my sales. Now this particular one is using Superstore, so you can create this one right away. And you'll see here I have a parameter up here, a profit ratio, and as I move that around, the line will move. So set it down to 32%, and then my line is right there. So reference lines not only can be for the purposes of an average, this is going to be a constant. And what I'm doing here is I want to call out what the profit ratio is of my data. And then I used a simple calculation to color the bars that are above and below the profit ratio. I'll show you what that calculation looks like. So it's just a meet profit goal. We'll bring that up to the screen. And it's just a Boolean calculation that says, is the profit ratio greater than or equal to the profit ratio goal, which is my parameter? If that's true, then I'm going to get trues and falses from this calculation. And then I just put that calculation on my color card and then set the colors for true and false. And then you get this nice visual that allows people to see what's above and below the line. So as the line hits a bar, you'll see that it's going to turn blue right there, and then back to false to highlight that. So another really good way of using those profit ratios parameters. Now, how do I set that up? So here is the dashboard. Well, with that, I'll just remove that real quick so we can add it back in. Right click, add a reference line, and we want to add the parameter. So if you didn't have this parameter defined already, you can just create the new parameter right there. I already have it set up from the first time. As soon as I set that, then it's going to be the computation. But like I said, I want to have that value that we don't see. So I change that to custom. And then I change that to the computation. Once again, colon, space, and then the value. And I did it on the wrong one, didn't I? Oh, that's why you have this. Let's take a look what I did here to show you what it looks like. So it's the profit ratio goal is the one, not the parameter. And then time at the end to use the chat window and we can ask some questions. Okay. Moving right along. Another really powerful capability of the reference line is where you place that reference line. at the table or the pane level. So if you have multiple panes like I do here, one's for corporate and home office using the Superstore segments, I can have a pane level, which is going to be two different averages. So here's my pane average for home office, and then I have a pane average for corporate average. So I have my corporate average, and then I have my home office average. And then at the table level, I can have an entire average for both of those. So this would be at the table level, and those would be at the pane level. What we're talking about here is if I click on Edit, it's this area here, the scope. So you can specify you have a choice of 3 different scopes that you can choose from. And then down here, we have one for month. This is that one that I was using before. Month allows us to just allow the user to kind of highlight a month to make it a little bit easier to point at a position. So it's very easy to point to July when I have a line going through it. And if I wanted to focus on a different month, allow the user to change to that month, and then they can get to that month really easily by looking at where the value crosses the line. So the point here is that reference lines don't only have to be horizontal lines, they can also be vertical lines, depending on what axis you have. And the reason why I can do that is because month is a continuous measure. I'm able to right-click and add reference lines here, or I can right-click on the x-axis and add reference lines here. Okay. I got a few more to go from. That was the XYs. Let's take a look at these regional highlights. This is from a different data set that I put together called a storms database. Now, this is also available on my blog. It has storm events from 1999 packaged into a nice Tableau extract. It's almost 20 million rows and over 600,000 events, weather events. An event is something that was either catastrophic or somewhat catastrophic in regards to weather. So in this particular view, I just have an average line and a radio button that allows me to change the years. And I like this one because the average line is going to change as the user navigates through the years. Now that is probably interesting by itself at one point, but also you notice that this is a stacked bar by region. And I really love this feature, and so do my users. They can use the region legend as a highlighter, and when you highlight, the average lines will change. So clicking on Central, now I can see what my Central average is. Clicking on Midwest, I can see what my Midwest average is, and of course, the stacked bar chart highlights the color for that area of the country. And I can just step through and I can see my average line changes, and my average line for the entire data set stays there. So I can always compare. South is much less than the country average. Up here in the central, it's looking at individual averages. You don't have to program any of this to do that. This is just an average line with with something on color that allows you to do a highlight. It's just an count of episodes. So this is the number of events that have happened in a particular year in a particular region. Okay, got a few more. This is one of my favorites, and I have to thank the community, and I'll do that again at the end of my session, but I saw this in a Makeover Monday, and I said, oh, I just have to put that into my business. It's just gorgeous. So this is moving reference lines. So you can see the reference line is here, right there, it's set at maximum. Now this is a dashboard, not a worksheet. And as I move my mouse over, the reference line will follow my mouse and follow the points. This is really useful if you have multiple measures, like multiple area charts. So I am doing one where it's a doctor's office and they have appointments, and then they have canceled appointments and consults. And I have different area charts across the state where they want to be able to compare how many appointments did they have versus how many people actually showed up for their appointments. And they can easily navigate over to a month after picking a region or a center or an office, and then seeing how those compare. I didn't have time to prepare multiples, but this is, actually I did. There's sales and profit here at the same time. So you can see that by doing this, I can have a nice little bullet chart. Even though I don't have to hover over the line, another nice benefit is, doesn't matter where I hover on an area chart, I'm going to get the tooltip because the line is going to provide that for me. Now, how did I do that? Here's the sheet. All I did was add a reference line. So we'll edit that reference line. And it's a reference line on month. I don't have any label. This is that the dotted circles that you see here. So that's what we're looking at. And it's on the entire table. That's all you need to do on the worksheet. The moving part actually comes in, and you'll notice here it's not really moving. It's just I'm just showing the points. The moving part is a dashboard action. So I'll go back to the dashboard, bring up dashboard actions, and here's how you set up that moving reference line. It has to be on a highlight action. So I created a highlight action, and you can leave these default. I only have one worksheet, so the source and target worksheet are the same. And then you need to just choose, in this case, I picked date fields, but it almost, in my case here, it doesn't matter as long as I use date fields because I have month and month here. So I wanted to move across because months are in my x-axis here. If you said all fields as well, it would probably still work. So without that highlight action, the highlight action is causing the reference line to move. And the reason why this area is a little blue is because I just did a format for the highlight, the action, so I can kind of see how far across I'm going in the reference when I'm moving. And that was done by specifying the fill above. We'll make that red. And now you can see how that works. That's really just visuals because of this. I don't normally do that in a dashboard. I would just have the line set up. Okay. On to the next one. Now, quite often in my dashboards, I will have something like this where I have a stacked bar chart, which is showing different slices of a specific dimension. So in this case, we're looking at, again, this is using my weather database. So we're looking at all of the deaths that have happened across the top 10 events for all of the years. So in tornadoes, everybody realizes is probably one of the larger horrible weather events that we have. And in 2011, it was quite bad. So there were 68,000 deaths. Now you see here I have the years in my bars, and I really want to have the total number, and that's right up here. So how did I get that number? You can't drag two different dimensions or measures to the label shelf, and I want the years in the bar so that people can see the years. So you need another way to show that that value. And the way you do that is with a reference line. So we'll go to top events again. Here I have it without it. And what I'm going to do is right click here and add a reference line. It's the sum. I want the value this time, and I'm not going to specify that. And then I don't need any lines, and I want to do it at the cell level, which is going to be at every row. And I want the total or the sum. This has to be value. And when I do that, now I get the value right at the top of the bars. because I formatted it also to go to the top. You'll notice that the line does appear when you mouse over it, but that's how you get those grand totals when you have pieces of a measure in a bar. Okay, so I just have one more thing to say, and that is thank you. And I'm going to put this into presentation mode. I'm wrapping up now. We have some time for questions, but I couldn't have done this without a lot of these people. So I follow the community just like you guys, and these are some of the mentors that I've had over the years that all of these people have helped me be the consultant that I am, and I thank all of them, and I look forward to learning from them as I continue my career with Tableau and data visualizations. So with that, I say thank you, and Emily, it's back to you.
All right, so we have plenty of time for questions for Scott. Personally, I'm interested in the curvy reference line. You know how you said, oh, you can get this in the workbook, but we have plenty of time. So do you want to show us?
Oh, sure. So what I did here was, there's just a regular, there are bars here, and I went to the colors, and I turned the opacity all the way down. So they're the bars as they were. And this is just a reference line, or a trend line. And I set it up for a polynomial, and I updated, this one looked the best, so I just made it a 3. So it's showing the polynomial reference trend line of that data. And then to kind of make it look cool, I just went in here and said, well, I really just want to show the line. How can I get rid of these bars? I was going to make all of them white, but that would still leave the box. So I turned the opacity all the way down, and that makes them go away. But if you highlight the bar, you can kind of see where they were. And then I'm not sure why this happens. Now, by the way, guys, I am using Tableau 10.4 beta, and something, I don't know if this is new, but this is the way you can highlight things. It actually creates this kind of circle rather than the way in some cases, you draw a box around it. The old way, you just draw a box. So I just thought that looks so cool. I just got to show everybody how I did that. Probably not too useful in your visualizations, but if you just want to show something fancy, it's a good way to do it.
Okay, are there any questions for Scott? Now's the time to pick his brain. I'll go through and see if there's anything on the Twitter and in the chat. So hang tight for a second, Scott.
Sure. Oh, someone that wants to know, where could you find the storm data sample set? Okay, so when you get this workbook, you'll be able to go to my blog, which is visagry.com. And I made this a URL link so we can show that real quick. I don't sell anything, so this is not promoting anything. I just needed a website that I can share information. And the first story here is the storm events database. And right here is the storm data TDE. So you can go to visagry.com and look at the very first story. If you need the data layer and understand what the data description is, click this and it'll download a Word document that tells you what the columns mean. So, but be prepared, it's kind of big, 0.5 gigabyte, and it's almost 20 million rows. It was made from 38 different CSV files, and I describe a little bit about there how I put that together. I teach a Tableau class in my company, and we were getting tired of Superstore, and I'm kind of infatuated with weather, and I was lucky enough to find this, weather, a database where I can download these CSV files and put together the data. So enjoy the data. It's my gift to the community. Hopefully you can use it and learn some more ways to use Tableau.
Great. So, Scott, you actually have plenty of time. If there's anything else you want to show us, or whether it's about reference lines or maybe some, anything that you want to share in addition
Okay.
to what you've shown us already, here's your time. Use it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks. I practiced a little bit and it took a little longer in my practice, but I guess I spoke fast or um, well, why don't we go through the weather database a little bit and I can show some things on how I use that. I do have a couple of extra sheets here that I used to build some things. I wanted to try this out and I really didn't have a good explanation of how this worked. But what I did is I used longitude and latitude from my storm database, and then I made another latitude to bring out another XY plot. And then I turned on trend lines. And you can see here that you can kind of create perfectly vertical, or not vertical, just from left to right trend lines. And I thought that was kind of cool that this perfectly dissects all of the circles when you set up your visualization like that. I couldn't get it to work just like that on this one. This is using the longitude. My database, the storm database, only had state in it, and as a state, and Tableau clearly found that was a state. And what I did was I created a sheet of the states, and I wanted those regions. So I created this regional map, and I did that just by creating groups, by just highlighting a bunch of the states. So if we bring state back out, you can kind of see how that works. So there are the states, and I just went in and I used the highlighter here, this one, the lasso, and I highlighted the states, and then added those to a group, and then I added that one, and then I called that East. But the cool thing is that you can create these components like regions if you don't have regions in your database. And I also really like this. This is something I think they did in Tableau 10. But now if I pull that off, I can analyze by region entirely. So if I put we'll do something, I don't want to talk about that. We'll call about injuries. So direct injuries, if I bring that out to the show me now and put that on label, now we're going to get how many injuries there are by region. Even though I don't have region in my database, Tableau takes care of doing that. It's adding up all of the states in the East to get that. And that's something that's pretty interesting to do, especially if you're working with data in a corporate sense. Sometimes they don't have these high-level areas. Like the project that I was in, they had departments, but they didn't have a region around department. And we used a technique like this based on zip codes to create this region. And first the guy said he was going to do it in Excel and give me a file. I said, no, we don't need Excel. We can do it all in Tableau. Just tell me how it should work out. And we built this together in Tableau, and now it's a main component in their dashboards, and they can reuse that field because we publish the data sources to Tableau server, so that this data source and that new region is available to them in any viz that they build, as long as they source their data from Tableau server. So if you haven't done that, this is a pretty cool thing to do, to do that with the building out regions. But these are actually just, like I said, the regions is actually just a group. If we scroll over and find regions, there it is. You can see it's a Tableau group. And the other is places that just did not fall into the Atlantic. Another interesting thing I did right here is I got rid of all of the space around the map. And I like having like little clean maps. And that's easy to do using the map layers, and just turn all the layers off. And I also saw this from someone in the community, a gentleman named Ben Sullins. He showed us how to clean up these maps to make them look a little nicer. So thank you, Ben, for that tip. I use it quite often when I'm showing maps.
Hey, Scott, we actually have a question that combines actually your presentation and what you're showing now, which is, Are reference lines possible for a map?
Yeah, that's a good question. And if you go to analytics, you'll see that it's not. And I'm pretty sure it's because there is no axis on a map, and reference lines require an axis. I can draw a trend line somewhere, but it'll say it can't be computed because they need to have an axis. So I think the answer is no, you can't have, there's nothing to trend here or reference. Now, perhaps if I brought out something like it that created an axis, like my date field, which is begin date time. If I do that, it's going to do something like that. Now I bet you can. No, we still can't. Oh, maybe it's because I have to expand this out a little bit. I still don't see a way to add reference lines, even if on a map.
Maybe because it's not continuous. Hey, Scott, see here. I know that you mentioned, learning some tips and tricks from Makeover Monday.
Yeah.
How was your Makeover Monday journey?
So the funny thing is, I do a Makeover Monday like every other week, and I never finish it in time to publish it. And if they called it Makeover Monday due on Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd probably be able to do it, but I'm just not that fast yet. So I do want to get involved a little more.
Do you still publish? Do you still publish up what you actually do, even if you try and get to it later, or?
I haven't. I've published a few things to public, but nothing nothing from Makeover Monday. You know what? I know Andy always says it doesn't have to be great, and we just want to see what you have. But by the time I see everybody else's, I'd say, you know what, mine's not going to be as good as some of the things I've seen. So that's probably why I don't publish yet.
I know it can definitely be a little daunting because there are some absolutely amazing people that participate in Makeover Monday, but I really strongly encourage you to do it, because what's really interesting, especially when you're time boxing yourself to really deliver something, as your skills increase over time, you actually see such an improvement in what you can deliver. And it's just incredible. We actually do it at my team here in Australia. I've recently started a new role and rolled out Tableau to the entire team, whether they work in market research or campaigns. And we've been trialing it, and I've been training them. And the change I saw over 3 weeks with just an hour and a half's worth of training with the team is just simply incredible. Going from creating one single worksheet, or 2 worksheets, into something, into exploring box plots, and then finally into having, the 3rd week, having an interactive dashboard with actions and filters. It's just incredible. So I know it can be really tough because our community, there's some really strong players in there, but they would love to be able to help you out and, to have you to share with them what you're actually doing.
Okay, thanks for that boost, and that coming from you, Fi, that feed that I imagine I will get to it. My time between now and conference is a little bit slow, so end of the summer here in the States, not too many new projects come on, so I'm doing a lot of my own side projects. So I do anticipate doing Makeover Monday and Workout Wednesdays in the next few weeks.
And so that's a little bit interesting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in your day-to-day role?
Okay, so the company I work for is called Knowlegent, and we call ourselves informationists, which are consultants. And my role is purely visualization and analytics. So I lead the Tableau team of internal consultants, and my job is, when I'm not pre-selling our services to clients, I'll also go on site to customers to either build data warehouses and then visualizations, as well as educate. So a big part of my role is education. I hold a training class internally, which I call the Tableau Search School. It's every Friday from 12 to 1. And everybody in the company is invited who is interested in either getting better at Tableau or is interested in taking the qualification exam. So everybody in the analytics and visualization team is required to attempt to take the test after 1 year of employment. And there are a couple of people that have been here about 9 months, so I know that they're going to be taking it before the end of the year. And so I'm working extra with them to get them ready to pass the Tableau qualification exam, which I did earlier this year.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you took the was it the qualified associate or the certification?
I did the qualification in December, and I'm planning on taking the certifications before the end of this year. So
that's great. So I've actually started to put together a training program for my team, and some of my more experienced Tableau developers, they're about to take their qualified associate exam. Do you have any recommendations on what they should do before sitting the exam?
Well, there is, I studied a lot, and I probably postponed it twice. Once because I just hit a deadline in my regular project. But I guess as soon as you think you're ready, take it. Don't wait, because I probably would have passed it 3 months sooner if I took it. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't that hard, but I was over prepared. I've been using Tableau, probably 5 years or so, as a consultant for 2 years. So it wasn't that hard for me at that point. But practice taking exams. There are some online resources where you can take practice exams. So you can search Tableau practice exams and find a website where you can sign up. It's free, and it's like a 30-question exam. It's a mini exam. But what I did was I took that exam and a couple of times, and as soon as I achieved a 100 on that test 3 times in a row, 3 different days in a row, because it wouldn't make sense to just do it again and again. But as long as I can retain those answers and got them down, got the test, my timing down to find the answers. Once I hit 100 a few times, then I said, okay, I'm ready. And in the consulting business, the slowest time of the year is between Christmas and New Year's. And I took it right in between Christmas and New Year's on December 28th.
Nice. And so the just as a follow-up question on that, how much time were you giving yourself during the prep exams?
How much time did I take to prepare?
No, so when you're sitting the preparation exams, how much time? Because I know that in the prep exams there's 15 questions, for example, and then in the qualified associate exam there's 36, but they're different lengths, the questions. So how much time were you giving yourself to practice?
Well, in the practice exams, I think there were 15 or 30 questions, and I always tried to finish them in probably 20 minutes. Okay. I finished the Tableau exam with about a half hour to spare. And I think they gave you 90 minutes, and I finished it in about an hour.
Okay.
We actually have a question, and Fee and Scott, you can answer, both of you actually could answer this. What suggestions would you have for someone who does not have the luxury of a team or mentors to learn or prepare from? Now, I will just give a plug for my Mentor Match tool that's still available on Tableau Public, and I'll tweet that out later. but what do you think? If you don't have a team or mentors, how would you suggest learning?
Okay. Well, I can tell you how I got good at this, and there are 2 words, and the person's name is Andy Kriebel. Andy is amazing, and I look forward to Tuesday because he comes up with a YouTube video every week. Most of the time he's there every Tuesday with Tableau Tip Tuesday, and I would watch that video, and I'd watch it, and then I would close his video down, start up Tableau Desktop, and try to recreate it myself. And I did that every week while I was learning Tableau in 2013 and 2014. He still does it every week. There was one last week, and hopefully there'll be another one tomorrow. And they're always very on point and useful tips. So one thing is find someone you like on YouTube and get a virtual mentor. You can ask questions in the chat and the comments. And if you have the luxury to go to conference, hunt that person down and give them a big hug and thank them.
So I think that's great advice, Scott. I would definitely recommend all of Andy's content. The way he sets up and works with Eva on Makeover Mondays, then he's got Workout Wednesdays as well with Emma. You know, they're really great challenges to get involved in. And if you can't actually do something, for instance, on Workout Wednesdays, you can download and you can find out how to do it. And he's always happy to help you out if you shout out to him. And all of the community are as well. And thanks for putting up the slide, because here's a lot of people that have great content that they share regularly. Matt Francis has some great courses that are on Udacity and lynda.com, I think, sorry. And, you know, basically there's so much free content out there. It's absolutely incredible. For me personally, I've also set up for my team free training themselves, so they can actually test themselves on Tableau intro training. It takes 3 hours. I use the Tableau content. We train it, and our IT department are actually going to make sure that people complete the training and complete the quizzes before they get a Tableau desktop license. So they would be able to download a trial license, but, you know, in order to really commit to their game, rather than just saying, you know, Tableau's sexy, I want to get involved in Tableau. You know, it's one of the fastest growing skills that is required or advertised on LinkedIn in the last 5 years. So it's something that we want to make sure that people aren't just saying, I want to get licensed, that they actually want to actually use it and get involved. So don't be scared of the community. Twitter might not be your cup of tea, but it's actually a really easy way to start reaching out and talking to people and talking to the really famous people within the Tableau community. So it's just, you know, a really great way to say, you know, hey, Andy, can you help me out with this? Or, you know, I'm really interested in learning more. You know, what would you point me towards? Everyone's always so inviting and welcoming to get involved with. So don't be scared, reach out, say hi. We love to hear from people, you know.
Yeah, and I would also say anybody who's going to be speaking today is some, you know, people who want to be those type of people in the community. I like to help. Not many people know who I am yet, at least out there, but I'm hoping that's going to change soon or someday. So if anybody who's listening wants to ask me a question, I'd be glad to help you out.
All right. Scott, thank you so much for your presentation. I know we've gotten a lot of good feedback on it on Twitter and in the chat window. So thank you very much. Scott will be providing his Tableau workbook, so that way we can learn from it. And I love that you have the resources available for those who are new or who don't know who to follow or who to use as resources. I think that was really informative. So Scott, thank you so much.